We all want to make more friends, but why is it so hard to do this as an adult? Hi, my name is Sonia, and you probably have seen me on Instagram or TikTok, where I talk about how to find yourself and create a fulfilling life with self-love. One thing you might have noticed in some of my videos is that I often strike conversations with strangers. Hey, would you like a strawberry?
What are you talking about? Secondhand? You should start selling these.
Are you just improvising?
That's
Oh my god, sign me up! Maybe one. Thank you so much.
And make friends that way. But I haven't been always like this. As a child, I was very outgoing, very bubbly, very chatty. Then the older I became, the quieter I got. Once I turned 22, 23, it's like something shifted. I didn't even want to speak up at meetings at my work, let alone talk to strangers. And I want to preface this by saying that it's okay to be an introvert, but I would argue that introversion actually has little to do with connections, because connections to other people is an essential part of our lives. It's part of our nature as humans. As an introvert myself, I, like a lot of people, assume that I'm just not good at this, but that's not true. Being an introvert only means that you need time away from making those connections. And there are a lot of people on the internet who share very good advice about how to connect with others, but I want to invite a slightly different approach. So let's do this the self-love way. So what does self-love have to do with making friends? I'd argue that everything. Think about this. When we were growing up, making connections was much easier. There are a bunch of reasons for that, but mainly as a kid, you yet didn't form an opinion about yourself. You were not labeling yourself good or bad. And then through that, you were not comparing yourself to others. And you were not afraid of being rejected because being rejected didn't mean anything yet. Whenever you were striking conversation with somebody, it was because you just wanted to. There was no agenda outside of, I see you and I want to play. And then it became much harder because our self-perception started cultivating all the things that we kept hearing about ourselves, that we kept hearing other people talk about others. And then we formed an opinion about what we don't like about ourselves, what we want to hide, how we want to appear to be liked. And then through that, most of us lose our true selves. Does it make sense? So now going to the meat of it, the tactics. How do you actually form connections with other people? I separated those in two stages. One is prep and one is action. Like we discussed, it's very important to connect with yourself first in order to connect with others. So in order to meet interesting people, you need to become interesting to yourself first. And by that, I don't mean to become successful or start doing the things that define who you are, but rather that make you excited about your life. Play, explore, create. Through that, your own cup becomes full, so you can have energy to be interested in others. Number two, remembering your value. It's important to remember that your value does not come from how successful you are. That's not why people will ever value you. They will value you based on how you made them feel. So think about your intention. How do you want people to feel after they have the conversation with you? Do you want them to feel seen, heard, appreciated? With this, it doesn't matter what title you have or what you do. You are there to make somebody's day better, to lift them up, or whatever intention that you set. When I realized that it doesn't matter what I do or what title I have, it became so much easier to take off the mask and just be the way that I truly am. Stop passing the judgment. What we do is that we often look at people through this lens of okay or not okay. And that requires a lot of self-awareness and work, because we often look at people through this lens of what we believe about ourselves and what we consider to be okay or not okay with us. And if you want me to make a video on self-esteem specifically, please do leave a comment. But for now, the self-love way to connect with others is just to look at people as just people. Not better than me, not worse than me, just people. And with that, the fourth step is to become interested in them. If you are not interested in people, you will struggle to make genuine connections. If you have abandonment trauma or you went through a lot of rejection as a child, your default might be not to care. But caring is like a muscle, which means you can train it. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to, whenever you are out at a restaurant or a bar or a cafe, start people watching. And create these stories. Who are they dating? Where do they work? What are they passionate about? That will help you build that curiosity muscle that we will use in the actions. And now the last step of the prep, which is make the charitable assumption. There's this book called Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. And he talks about this term that he used in his restaurants called making the charitable assumption, which serves as a reminder to assume the best. Because while people can act in the way that we don't appreciate, we also don't really know what they might be going through. And perhaps in this moment, they need our love and support more than ever. And it doesn't mean that we're going to let them ride over us. We can still set the boundary. It just helps and leaves more room for us to see the best in people and then move on much faster, not dwell too much on why people were rude to us. So now we're moving on to the actions and what you can do so that way you can connect with people much easier and make amazing friends. So I want you to think of making connections, a skill that you're building, as a marathon. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you don't want to right away from not talking to people at all, go into the full-blown blast mode of having these long conversations with people. It's never going to work that way. So first step is to make people feel seen. All you need to do in this step 1 is to start saying hi to people. Not hi, how are you? Just hi, and that's it. But make sure you are looking people in their eyes. Eye contact is very important because we are often not used to it because so many ways it just makes us feel awkward. We just want to hide. So in this step, we're making ourselves feel comfortable with retaining the eye contact. Just say to yourself, all I'm here to do is to say hi, nothing else. And so you want to do this as often as possible until you feel comfortable, until it becomes easy. So once I started doing this, I started saying hi to every person I would see on the street. So if you are able to do this, just practice it at coffee shops, places that you go to frequently, whenever you're walking to work. When that becomes easy, move on to step number 2, which is asking a simple question. So what you want to do is that you want to say hi, look person in the eyes, and ask them a simple question. For example, how's your day going so far? I want you to ask that and not just how are you? Because, for example, in English-speaking countries, a lot of people by default assume that how are you just means hi. They don't even respond to this. So based on where you are and where you're watching this from, I'm sure you have these kind of phrases. They just sort of are part of the hi at this point. What you want to do is that you want to ask a question that's simple enough, but it's still going to prompt the response. So how is your day going so far is a little bit more specific than just simple how are you. So usually people would respond with something as simple, like good or okay. And that's it. You don't need to, if they ask you back how your day is going, you can respond, but don't try to strike a conversation from there. Right now, again, you're maintaining the eye contact, you're saying hi, and you're asking the simple question to make yourself comfortable with initiating a conversation. Now, if that is easy, step number 3 is to start giving compliments. If there's one rule from this whole video that I want you to take away from this is that never keep a nice thought to yourself. There is so much power in sharing love and appreciating another person. Validating a stranger, pointing out something that you like about them, something that you see in them that is unique and beautiful, is going to shift their day and it's going to make them feel seen. And with that, you start shifting your own energy because in a way, when you appreciate another person, you make their day better. And by default, you start making your own day better as well. And if that's now easy for you, go to step number 4. Remember in our prep, we were talking about how it's important to build up your curiosity muscle. So now let's test it. One of the principles of the self-love mindset is to just be curious. Go up to them, ask them a question that's interesting to you. What's their story? What are they passionate about? What are they thinking? Oh, I noticed this book you're reading. What is this about? Oh, I noticed you come to this coffee shop often, but I don't know your name. Anyway, you get the idea. Ask something meaningful, something that is actually truly interesting to you, that makes you feel curious. And with that, you will see how conversations will change from those irrelevant small talk things that don't turn into anything into conversations that become fulfilling. And it doesn't mean that every encounter is going to turn into something meaningful, but you never know when it can be that person. So as much and as often as you do this, more chances there are that you're going to meet exciting and interesting people. And I want to wrap up this video with one last thing. Give yourself grace, because when you're starting doing these brave steps, you're going to run into blocks and into situations where maybe they felt awkward, you felt like you failed, or you felt like you didn't do it as well as you were hoping for. Remember to say, this is just an experience. It doesn't mean that the other person is bad, or you are bad, or it will stay this way forever. Just treat every day as practice, and it's a great approach to life in general. I hope this was helpful. Since this is my first YouTube video, I know this is not going to be perfect, but I'm going to keep learning. And I definitely would appreciate your feedback because your thoughts is what's going to help me improve this. Once again, I appreciate you. And remember to give yourself a lot of love today.